Getting ready for Clemson this week, Brian Higgins, the starting center, Airon Servais as the Orange get set to take on the Tigers. And Airon, let's talk running game first. We know you linemen always like to do that. It was well more than 300 yards last week. What's been working for you guys running the ball this year?
Man, I think it's just consistency, coming down to our technique, being able to behave the same way on every play and, knowing how the guy next to you is going to play and just being consistent in every run that we do.
You guys on the line both have a lot of experience individually and, for the most part, a lot of experience together. How have you noticed that paying off?
Man, it just comes down with that the cohesion of us as a unit. Just kind of going back to knowing what the guy next to you is going to do and, how each of us plays, what some of our strengths and weaknesses are, and just playing to that. So I think it's really good that we've been together so long, and, it's going to bode well for us as the season goes on and on.
Yeah, Aaron Roberts obviously missed last year but had a ton of experience. Coda Martin, a ton of experience at A&M, but was new to you. How fast did he sort of mesh with the rest of the group?
He's so close with Coach Babers, obviously. So, he's been in the system, for not as long as we have, but he's getting just as much exposure. When he goes home, it's football there too. So, he's got just as much knowledge as we do. So it's really good.
They do share the same address. That does help out in situations like that. All right, running the game. ONeal, first career 100-yard game last week. How cool is that to see one of your guys break out like that?
Yeah, man, it's just great to get him up there and get those yards under his belt. Get his first 100-yard game in his career. It's really good for him.
I'm curious about this. What's it like blocking for a quarterback like Eric Dungy, where you don't quite always know where he's going to end up when the play starts?
Man, it's just electric. I mean, he's just a playmaker, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get those yards and try to win a game for us. So it's really cool to be able to block for Eric.
You and he did that last year against Clemson in what was a huge upset at the time and the biggest win you've been a part of. When you look back at that game, is there one memory that sticks out now a year later?
Man, for me, I think he's, some of my coaches from back home, from high school, texted me and they were like, this is a big game. Make sure you take the time to stop and kind of absorb it all. So, when we kind of knew we had the game, and we knew we were going to win, right before we were getting into like the victory formation, I kind of stopped and we were running the clock out, and I made sure to look around at the stadium, the crowd, and just take everything in. And it was a really cool moment just to be able to kind of realize what was happening in the moment. So it was really cool.
For you personally, I guess you're right in the middle of it. Literally, you're snapping the ball, and just the way the timing worked out, you knew it was going to be basically 3 snaps in the full 40 seconds. That's got to be a pretty cool amount of time to sit back and absorb it and take it all in.
Right. I think the hardest part for me is, as a center, I still got to be able to hear Dungy's cadence. So, everybody's going crazy because we're about to beat Clemson. And, that crowd was getting pretty loud. And everybody's trying to hype him up, and I'm trying to calm him down a little bit so I can hear what's going on just to finish the game out. But
usually it's quieter when Syracuse is on offense in the Dome. It'll obviously be the opposite this week in Death Valley. I'm curious, now a year later, we talk about the individual moments. As a team, do you take anything out of that game that's influenced this season or influences this week, just knowing that moment of success you had last year?
I think it just shows that every team is beatable, and when we go into this, we're not riding off the win from last year, I would say, but we know what we can do and what we're capable of, and I think it's going to be really exciting going down there and playing those guys.
For you personally, it is quite a matchup in the middle because we know what their D-line's all about. It is NFL guys, 4 of them in a row up there. You played against the same guys last year. What was that matchup like, and what do you expect it to be like this week?
Man, they're just fantastic athletes. A lot of those guys are projected to be first-rounders. So just to be able to play against that kind of competition is really good. It's just cool to get that experience and play against some high-end talent like that.
And lastly, Airon, this will be the first time you're in a big-time road atmosphere this year. What is that like to play in?
Man, it's just exciting. I think back to my redshirt year. I traveled as a redshirt, so I got to go to Clemson and be at that game. And it's the atmosphere there is electric. I think back to LSU and kind of how truly football it is down there. And I'm just excited to get back into it.
All right, Airon, enjoy it this week.
Thank you very much.
Airon Servais, we'll see him out there starting at center this Saturday.